It's All Things Considered, member-supported Hawaii Public Radio, and I'm Dave Lawrence. We are having a fun little chat today. An artist who is a bassist, composer, producer. He not only does records and stuff, but he also has the chance to get his music into films, which is its own sort of enterprise. And he has a unique connection to the radio station, too. It's Kyle Eastwood. He's at the Blue Note through Saturday night, and he's our guest right now. Hey, Kyle, thank you for taking some time for us.
Oh, my pleasure. Good to be here.
And it's great to have you here. So I mentioned that. I mean, a lot of the time when we do these things and somebody's got somebody attached to them who's a significant cat, I try not to ever, I'll avoid even mentioning it at all. The reason I mention it with you is twofold. One, because I happen to know he's got a place on Maui, or he had a place on Maui for some time. And then the other...
I've yet to visit.
Say again?
I've yet to visit, unfortunately.
You've never been to that?
I haven't been to this place, no, in Maui, no.
Unbelievable. And he's had it for a long time.
Maui, and actually, that's probably like 35, 40 years, probably.
Wow, and you're 48?
9, I think the last time I was in Maui, actually.
What year?
I think it was 78 or 79.
So you wouldn't even remember it. It doesn't even look the same. The stuff. I guess the other thing, though, that is a much more significant connection, not only does he have a place in Hawaii that you've never visited or hardly visited, he gave us a Mercedes that gave to our radio station to use to leverage for donations.
Oh, really?
Blue, I think it is.
That was awfully nice of him.
Do you remember that car? Probably not.
I don't know which Mercedes. What is?
It's like a blue Mercedes. It's older. I don't know a lot more besides that, but I just thought that was a really neat thing. I mean, we don't have. You're the first artist that I've ever gotten to talk to whose father has done something so generous for our radio station.
Wow, no, that's very nice of him. I'm glad he hooked you up.
Are you a public radio guy yourself?
Yeah, sure.
And where are you based at? LA?
I'm from California originally, but I live in Paris a lot of the time. So I play a good deal of the year in Europe, and then I get back, to LA a bit to do some work now and then. And all my folks and my family, they all live in California still. So,
and that's just a huge thing. We'll get into your music in a second. But when did you own a place in Paris?
No, I just rent a place there, but I've been there for about 11 years now. Or so.
Amazing. And was it professional? It was, I'm reading into it as professional considerations. I'm touring all the time here. I might as well just stay here. Or it could be it's one of the greatest cities in the world. It could be both.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, there's a lot of great opportunities to play. All around Europe. Some of the best jazz festivals I think in the world are actually or in France and all around Europe. So. Yeah, I'm there probably a good 8-9 months out of the year at least.
That's fantastic. That's so cool. And a lot of cats. Always John McLaughlin. I guess it's not Paris for him. It's somewhere in like Nice or something like that. You a McLaughlin fan?
Yeah, sure. I've done a fair amount of listening to his music. Yeah.
So Candid Kyle compilation that's out, and Timepieces last studio record.
That was the last studio record. Yeah, Timepieces. Yeah.
That was 2015.
I believe so, yeah.
and you're not here. I know you haven't been to Maui, and so I'm assuming you haven't come through any aspect of the state in decades.
No, I've actually I've been to the Big Island a couple times in the last sort of like 4 or 5 years. Yeah,
for fun or?
My mom has a little place there actually, so she spends probably 3 or 4 months out of the year over there. So at her place I've been over there and visited with her.
Which part of the island?
Just up from Kona,
Waikoloa area, nice up there.
Yeah, about half hour or so from Kona.
It's very, very, very cool there. So for newcomers to what you're doing, and no doubt there could be quite a few of them, describe how you look at the kind of jazz because jazz is a big word, and there's a lot of stuff we were just talking about John McLaughlin. That's a great example of how diverse the genre could be. Yeah. Describe for newcomers, people who are curious about coming to see you, what kind of show that you're putting on here, and how you interpret the jazz.
Well, I mean, I love jazz, and I grew up listening to jazz. So there's, I like a lot of different styles of jazz, So that's there's all those influences in the music that I write, but there's also a lot of other influences. I like all different kinds of music. So there's probably some funk and R&B influence, and then I listen to music from kind of all over the world, and especially living in Europe, a lot of the time you hear music from a lot of different places. So. I don't know. I'm kind of open to all that music, you know. So whatever I dig, it kind of, you know, gets influenced into the music that I write.
Your pop gave the car to the station because of his love of jazz, so it's actually more strong reference point than one might realize, because we play some jazz on the air, so he appreciated that. He gave the car in that way. So then dialing back in on yourself, you're a little kid. Kind of describe for me, paint a picture if you can, of when the sort of nurturing environment of, I'm assuming his taste, but your own taste kind of developed.
Well, both my parents are big jazz fans, you know, so I grew up hearing a lot of, you know, big band music and a lot of jazz, primarily jazz they were listening to around the house, you know, the odd Johnny Cash record here and there and a few things, and some, you know, Ray Charles and some blues and some stuff like that, but predominantly jazz. And so that was the first live music that I went and saw, you know, when I was a kid, because they started taking me out to the Monterey Jazz Festival, which is where I grew up. I think I was in 1977 or so. I think so. I was about 8 or 9. So I think that's what, I mean, hearing the music live and seeing some of the greats actually back in the day was what kind of really got me interested in wanting to learn to play an instrument. So I started a bit on piano, and he taught me a little piano at first, and then I took lessons for a few years, and then I learned a little guitar after that for a film actually that I did with him when I was Honky Tonk Man, yeah. And so I learned a little guitar for that, and then I picked up the bass shortly after that. I think when I was about, I don't know, 13, 14, something like that.
Electric first, yeah. I was just kind of teaching myself how to play, and you know, I had a lot of friends who were musicians, so I was you know, always playing with them, and you know, there was a lot of guitar players and drummers and stuff like that, but not too many bass players. So I was you were a useful dude.
They always needed a bass player, yeah. So so did that for a bit, and then when I started really getting into playing bass, and I kind of switched and just started playing acoustic bass and kind of focused on that for a few years, and then after a few years of that, I kind of went back to splitting on my time on both, you know, electric and acoustic. Yeah.
So I'm seeing he and mom, both of your parents, have this responsibility for introducing you to the jazz, and I know, and we'll talk about it, I know they took you to the Monterey Jazz Festival. You got to go backstage, I understand, meet some of these heavy duty cats that you were seeing. Other kinds of music, because I'm thinking you were born in 68, so yeah, 10-year-old kid, it's 1978. What were you listening to on your own then? I gotta believe there's some Kiss, some Frampton, Alice Cooper, Zeppelin. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, I was into growing up in the 70s, yeah, I was into a lot of funk music and
drop names of the records.
I think one of the first actually records I remember buying was actually Mothership Connection by Parliament.
We love that.
So that was actually one of the early records, and then yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of Led Zeppelin, and you know, I liked a lot of music, you know, rock and roll from the sort of 60s and 70s, you know, and then I got really into Earth, Wind and Fire, and you know, Stevie Wonder, of course, and Marvin Gaye, and a lot of Motown music. So I mean, I was always listening to music. Even the pop music and I was listening to was always a little bit before the actual, all the music that my peers were really listening to. So I think they always thought I had an oddball taste in music, you know.
Because you like the 60s stuff more than what was current.
I was listening to that kind of music. So,
and on the rock front, what was the first rock concert that you went to?
The first rock concert that I went to, it might have been, let's see. I think it might have been the B-52s, actually. That was an early one. And then The Who I probably had the second one I think I ever went to. I saw The Who.
82 tour?
82, yeah. The Clash opened for them, yeah.
Right, when they called it a farewell tour.
First of many farewell tours, I think, yeah. But, yeah.
What a cool one. And that was like Oakland Coliseum?
Oakland Coliseum, yeah. What, were you there?
No, I'm trying to, this is what I do. I don't have your skill or world vision, but I try to go, all right, let's do the math, Carmel, and the 90.
That's right, yeah, well, that would have been the closest place. Yeah, that was it, yeah, Oakland Coliseum, yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool. Love The Who, and that's a great thing to hear about. And you mentioned your pop, not as into the rock, right? He's more of a jazz kind of cat, so he's not going to be sitting around listening to that, or you were just picking up that older kind of rock.
picking that up from, I mean, like
Radio.
I had a lot of friends, from radio. And then, I mean, I had a lot of friends who are musicians. So, they were kind of getting me into some of that stuff. And yeah, I mean, that just seemed to me the music I was kind of drawn to. I mean, there was some bands that I liked from the 80s, the Police and obviously the Clash I liked. And, there's some good pop rock bands from that time. But I seemed to be always more drawn to the older stuff, a lot of Motown music I was listening to as well, Smokey and Marvin Gaye and all that stuff.
You like the older when George first started the band, the Funkadelic records like Free Your Mind, Maggot Brain. That's what
I love. I have all those.
That's the good stuff right there. So I guess I was asking, I'm trying to figure out this road to doing it on a pro basis. At what point, by the time you were in high school, when did you start to realize, I have the chance to maybe dedicate myself to this?
Well, I mean, I just played for fun, like really all through high school, and like I said, I had a lot of friends who were musicians, so we would get together and play, and I played. We did like little things, here and there for some parties and playing and stuff like that. But no, it wasn't until I was about 18 or 19 that I started thinking that I wanted to be a professional musician, really. So that's when I got really serious about practicing, was at that age,
And you went to school for a couple years and then left. Is that what
I did? Yeah, I was there as a film major because I was, film and cinema and music have been the two things that I've always loved the most. So I was kind of entertaining the idea of maybe trying to direct, be a director. So I did a year at USC and as a film student, but that's when I was really starting to get more and more involved in playing and really being serious about music. So
it's 1980. Say again.
I just kind of veered off into the music thing and never looked back, really.
So in '82, you're 14 years old. The Honky Tonk Man thing. What was that like? Dad wants to star with the kid in the movie. How does that end up that you get that opportunity?
And now he had this script, I guess, and that he liked, and he asked me if I would be interested to do it, and so I mean, I was, I'd kind of grown up being around the set, while he was working, so. I mean, I knew everyone, on the set, and it was, there's a lot of the same crew all the time, so it was all people I'd grown up around, and so I mean, it wasn't that, different of an experience. I mean, it was kind of natural for me, but it was a lot of fun,
You haven't done a ton of them though since on screen.
No, I mean, I did a couple little things here and there, and but no, I mean, that was the main one I did, But no, I think I was more interested in, if I would have gone into film, I think I would try to be a director. That was more interested in the sort of overall, filmmaking process than more so than acting, I think.
But the cool thing is you ended up kind of incorporating both because you got the musical thing into the films at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, it's nice that I stay involved in film a bit through music, though.
You mentioned being around your pop and like the whole thing being familiar to you. I was telling Martha, one of the people who works at the Blue Note, when I was like, when I was a little boy, the movie I used to love watching was like the one that Every Which Way, but which is the one that had it was an orangutan, right?
Every Which Way But Loose. Yeah.
Did you get to meet the orangutan?
I did, actually, yes.
What was he? Was he nice?
I went and visited the set. I mean, I usually would visit him on the set when he was doing films, for at least a couple days or sometimes a week or so, So, his name was Manus, I think was his name. In the film he was named Clyde, but his name was his, I think. But he became very close with my dad after spending a couple months with him making the film.
They just do one with that.
What's that?
I thought there was more than one. Just one?
Actually two, but there was one main one that they were used for most of the stuff, but there was another one that they...
Manus was in both?
Manus was the... Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So tell us a story about getting to meet him or hanging out on the set, maybe something endearing. You described your father. Man, who couldn't? I mean, I have fish, and I get emotional with them. So I can imagine that there was something, just to take us to, an impressionable moment that is an endearing way you always recall getting to do something like that.
Well, I mean, I had a great time, making the Honky Tonk Man with him. We did it over the summer, so I wouldn't miss school, and... So I mean, I got to spend the whole summer kind of he and I being roommates, traveling around and doing the film. So it was a lot of fun. We had some good laughs.
Do you jam together occasionally?
Yeah, we haven't much lately, but yeah, I mean, growing up, yeah, we used to, and yeah, now and then we still play a little bit together. Yeah.
When you delivering this music that you do around the world, it seems like and you get this actually, a lot of folks who work in Asia say this, there's just a different level of appreciation for certain genres and different kinds of music in different places. Do you find, because way that you've gravitated, not, you do a lot of gigs in Europe, so it makes sense that you'd be living there, but there's also maybe more of an appreciation for jazz there?
Yeah, I think there's a wider age group, I think, that appreciates jazz. I think there, you get a bigger mix of, people and, older people and then a lot of younger people as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot, like I said, yeah, there's a lot of great jazz festivals there. And I think they have a broader taste of music. You see someone's record collection in their house in Paris or in France, and they've got quite a eclectic, usually, collection of different stuff. They'll have classical music, and then like music from North Africa, and then then like pop music, and then reggae, and all kind of a lot of different stuff. So it's good. And
that geographic place in the world is so different for them, so that makes much more sense. Like Rai and North African music would be a lot more easily part of somebody's thing because they're just so much more closer to it than we are. We're kind of isolated from everything here.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot. I mean, and then I go and play in Japan usually at least once a year, sometimes more. But yeah, that's a great place to go and play. And the Blue Note there in Tokyo is one of my favorite rooms to play in.
When it comes to getting your stuff into movies and writing something for, actually when we were listening to the set and just thinking about when it comes to, like, do you see what you have to score to? Are you looking at the image of it, or does somebody get you come up with the music first? To describe a little bit of the process and how that might be different than doing a record on your own.
I mean, normally I take a look at the film, either at least in a rough cut sort of version, and usually watch it once and then maybe watch it again, or watch some few different scenes and pick out some scenes that particularly need music. You think of the most important musically, that might need a special theme for a character or the sort of general theme for the film. So. I usually do that, and then sort of take notes, and then usually get the scenes you want on DVD, and then you just take it home and watch it and sit at the piano and try and come up with something. That works.
You sit at the piano to do it.
Do a lot of it at the piano, yeah, and then or a keyboard, yeah, and then it's a totally different process than doing jazz. It's a lot of sitting behind the computer and editing and moving stuff around, and it's the most fun is when you've actually written it all and you get to go in and record it with the orchestra and do it with all the musicians. But it's usually like doing it. You kind of put it together with samples a lot of the time at first. But it's a lot different than doing jazz. Is all about sort of writing and playing how you want, and there's a lot more freedom involved there. But film music, you're obviously supporting what's on the screen, so
you're looking at that. You get that first. You got the visual material, and then the music is coming second.
Yeah, I mean, generally that's one of the last things that's done is the music and sound effects and stuff like that goes into the film last.
All kinds of great ones. There's I was counting on the Wikipedia for whatever it's worth. It said there was 8 different films that your Letters from Iwo Jima. I'm not going to name them all here, but Mystic River, Gran Torino. I mean, is there a favorite one or something that?
I think Letters from Iwo Jima was one that I'm the most proud of. I think I was really happy with the movie, and I think the movie came out really well, and the theme, the music is pretty strong, I thought. So that's probably one of the ones I'm proudest of.
Good for you. No, that's very cool. And just a couple more and I'll wrap it up with you. When you're a kid, you're going to these things. I had read, and it sounds very cool. You get to go backstage, which is when you're young and impressionable, that can be a cool thing. And now you're a jazz musician, so meeting people like Dizzy, that had to be pretty important experience in your development. Can you reflect one of those stories for us?
Yeah, some of them I knew, because I was pretty young, and so I was kind of just running around backstage, and some of them I knew from his, from hearing them at home and seeing the records, with my parents, and some of them I didn't realize how important they would be to me until, a few years later, But yeah, no, I remember meeting him, Dizzy there, and
Who else?
And Sarah Vaughan, and who else? Art Pepper, and Stan Getz, and a bunch of people there. Louis Belson, quite a few there. But I mean, I think the very first concert I ever saw at Monterey was the Count Basie big band, when Basie was still alive and playing with the band, and Joe Williams was singing and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. That was actually, I remember being pretty impressed by that. So it was that kind of got me interested in wanting to play the drums, listening to them, and then I kind of veered off into bass a little later. But
well, it's great because you followed up those early experiences that came about, I'm assuming because your dad taking you back there, right? Your mom and dad.
Yeah. I mean, he was there at the very first one in 1958. So he kind of, it's more or less of an annual outing for the family. For
the family. But I guess my point was, you went on to, now you play them yourself, as you mentioned. When you're doing these festivals, can you think of an encounter you've had with any of your heroes where it's a whole different level? You're like, wow, I'm playing and I'm also on the bill with so and so.
Yeah, I mean, the Monterey was quite fun to play the first time. I mean, I've done it about 6 or 7 times now, but the very first time, yeah, I was a little nervous actually the first time because it was I'd been there so many years and seen so many great people play there, so it was it was very memorable, that one, the first time playing there. Yeah, but it's always great to go back because it's I see people that I haven't seen for a long time, and there's always a great lineup there, and it's still like really nice festival. It's in the same place that's been going on since 1958, and it hasn't changed a whole lot. A couple other small stages have been added, but yeah, it's still sort of homey, like it has been.
That's her Hendrix. I mean, so many dead, so many things.
Pop Festival, yeah. The one they did, yeah, that was the same place right there. Yeah,
that's epic. Really, really heavy. And as we go to wrap it up, there's you've gotten the privilege of getting to record at some of these remarkable places like Carnegie Hall. Is there something about? Because this is a great place that you're playing out here, but is there something? Did you ever get a sense of? I don't want to say nervous, anxiety, but just that you're like, wow, I am walking out on Radio City, something like that, like a feeling.
Carnegie Hall was like that a little bit, yeah. I remember I was a little nervous at that one too, actually. But yeah, I mean, I don't usually get too nervous, but it depends on if there's somebody in the audience I know who's there's a particular musician that's there or something, But I mean, I don't know, a little bit of nerves is
good thing.
Can be a good thing. So,
what's your favorite venue?
My sort of club, I think, is, the Blue Note in Tokyo. This is a great room, actually. I've been really enjoyed this room. It sounds great in there. So it's and it's similar to the one in Tokyo. The one in Tokyo is always great, and it's great staff there, and it's always a lot of fun. And
how about for the theaters?
Ronnie Scott, theaters.
But Ronnie Scott's a legendary one. I didn't mean to cut you off in London.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great theater. There's some good ones. The opera in Monte Carlo is a really nice one.
You put that on your Facebook. I was like, man, does that place look amazing?
It's quite an amazing venue, actually, just visually, But yeah, it's a fun place to play. Yeah, it's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, because some of these places, it gives it a sound too. It's how it's constructed, the materials. There is something to a venue.
Well, it's an old one. It's actually, I think it's the same architect who built that theater as the one who did the opera house in Paris, actually. Okay. So it's quite ornate and quite stunning, actually.
That's the word, ornate. It is. In that picture you took, it really comes across as like, man, I've never even heard of this place, and it's really good. Final question, and it's the obvious one, because I'm thinking, well, Maui, we're here. It's a quick flight. It's a couple $100. You rent a car. You're here. Is Clint coming over to see it?
No, unfortunately, I don't think he is. Actually, he's starting to get his next project together. So, he had a break, I think, for a little while over Christmas, and he went up to the mountains to do some skiing or something. I think he did.
Not Big Island Mountain.
No,
it's giving you a hard time.
He was up in Idaho, I think, but
a real ski area.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's going to make it over this time, but maybe next time. We'll see.
Well, we're hoping.
I'd like to go over to Maui and actually go visit him if he's over there. So maybe next time.
Well, that's a great excuse to get you back. Obviously, you can head into the Big Island and catch Mom's place up there. But we're hoping that you come back through Honolulu too, because it's great to have you here, and this is a great venue. We're so blessed to have something like this. It's just,
I'm really happy that they've opened one here. It's it's a great place to come and play. Yeah, could be worse places to come and visit for a week.
You said it, brother. No, it's changed the vibe here entirely. It's night and day. You can't even compare. I lived here since 2002, and it's almost a community service that we have something like this here. It's the Blue Note through Saturday night, 6:30 and 9. 2 shows a night. Kyle Eastwood and his fabulous band playing some really different textures, and it's a great jazz club feel when he's up there playing. And hope this wasn't too much of a hassle doing this little all things considered thing with me here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on.